Hello and welcome to another episode of The Startup Show, brought to you as always by Inc. Authority. I'm your host, Trevor Rowley. Today we're going to be talking about land trusts. What's a land trust? How is a land trust used? And to tell us all about it, we want to welcome back to the program Dan Morgan. Hey Dan, how are you?
Great, Trevor. How about you?
Fantastic. So Dan, you've been on the program before. It's good to have you back. For those of you who are just joining us, Dan is a leader of our senior business advisor team, and he's been a senior business advisor himself. Tell us a little bit about what you do and the team that you lead.
Love to, yeah. So been fortunate to be with the company here for quite a few years, and what we do is help businesses grow and develop. And I love our topic today because it's a topic that really can help our entrepreneurs know what instruments and tools are available to them to protect their real estate, to protect their assets. So I love it.
Yeah, we get to talk to all kinds of business owners around the country that are doing a myriad of things, bakeries, lawn maintenance, computer repair, etc. But quite a few are into real estate investing, and there's a lot of options available to real estate investors and how to structure their affairs and their deals and individual properties. And a lot of times they're coming to us interested in corporations or LLCs, but sometimes they're interested in other vehicles such as a land trust.
Sure.
So let's talk about it. First of all, what's a land trust, Dan?
So a land trust is a revocable instrument, a trust not too much different than what a revocable living trust is, if you all are familiar with a revocable living trust, but it's an instrument primarily used to hold title to property. This can be a single family home, a multi-family home, it could even be raw land, but it's exclusively used to hold the title of the deed for a property, and its primary purpose is anonymity, to keep the owner's name off of public record as best as we possibly can.
Yeah, there's no such thing as guaranteed privacy or anonymity, particularly in the United States, but this is something that gets you pretty close down that path. And
pretty darn close.
And can guarantee certain levels of anonymity. How does that work? How does someone get anonymity or close to by use of a land trust?
Yeah, you're spot on. There's not really a tried and true way to find 100% anonymity. I mean, in today's day and age with the internet age, almost anything's findable. But we want to get as close as we can. I always explain the Rockefeller effect, right? Nelson Rockefeller is famous for saying the key to success is to own nothing but control everything. So we want to try to get as close as we can to that. The trust, if you're an owner of a property, as the grantor, the owner, you can elect to create a trust and transfer the title of the property into the trust. So that way, if I've got a property on 123 Maple Street, I might call that trust the Maple Street Trust. And if something goes wrong on the property or somebody wants to find out who owns that property, they look up the title of the deed and they see it's held in this 123 Maple Street Trust, but there's no public information of who the grantor, the owner of that property is.
Yeah, in most states for sure. So you've identified one of the most important components of the trust, which is the grantor, the person who creates the trust. There's also a trustee, and there's also a beneficiary. Tell me a little bit about the roles that are played there.
Yeah, really good question. So the obviously the grantor is the owner of the property. You have all the signing privileges and the ability to control the property and make decisions on the property. And you as the grantor will appoint a third-party trustee. And really the sole purpose of this trustee's job is to protect your identity as the owner of the property. Your job is, as the trustee, to never disclose who that owner is. And the one thing that the trustee will have to do, one of the things, is collect the tax bills and things like that and convey the information to the grantor, which is you. So that's one element to the trust. The other element to the trust is we want to have what's called a death beneficiary. And the death beneficiary is in place. If God forbid something were to happen to you, the grantor, where does this property go? Who is the beneficiary of this property?
Yeah, that's a really good way of explaining it. That grantor, the person who creates the trust, the person who ultimately is going to transfer the property into the trust by way of a deed, a title, and then the trustee who's going to handle the affairs and be responsible for carrying out the trust, and then the person who benefits is the beneficiary.
Right. Yep.
And is it always the same person? Is it always different persons?
It could be the same person. So the one critical element where I think a lot of people go wrong is they'll appoint the trustee to be maybe somebody that shares our same last name or a loved one. It's not typically recommended that be one of your loved ones. Like here at Inc. Authority, we provide a service where our attorney will actually be the legal trustee on the trust. And it's always recommended to have somebody who knows legal procedure to be that. That's best practice. But at the end of the day, you can appoint whoever you elect to be the trustee. We just typically try to make sure it's not somebody who shares your last name for anonymity purposes.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, as you mentioned at the outset, these land trusts are set up primarily for privacy.
Right.
And what is it that it's going to be out there in the public domain, so to speak? If somebody searched hard enough, they would find out the trustee of the trust, right?
Right.
And so if I want to be the one who is the grantor, but I don't want my name out there, you're right. I'm not going to name somebody close to me sharing the same last name that makes it easy for somebody to figure out that I'm really the person behind it. Instead, I'm going to find somebody else, an attorney or a friend or a trusted advisor somewhere who could act as the trustee of the trust, so that nobody would have really any way to connect me easily to the trust, if privacy was one of the things that I was really looking for.
Absolutely. And then the other really important element to the trust is the lifetime beneficiary of that trust. And this is why here at Inc. Authority we have a holistic approach of how do we really structure this properly. Our business advisement team helps with this each and every day. And it's really critical to take advantage of the tax benefits and the liability benefits of what an LLC can do along with that trust. So typically what we'll do is we'll appoint a LLC as the lifetime beneficiary. And it's really the LLC's job to, if you've got a rental property, to collect the rent, pay the taxes. If a hot water heater goes out on that property, it's the LLC bank account that's going to handle that. So it's really a great tool to use alongside an LLC. I love those two tools together.
Yeah, that's really brilliant, because a lot of times, as you read about and learn about land trusts, you kind of look and see, well, it seems like it's an either or. I either use an LLC or I use a land trust to, take title of the property. But as I hear you, you're saying, hey, they can be used in combination. It's not necessarily an either or. I mean, there might be situations where you're going to use just an LLC. There might be situations where you use just a land trust. But perhaps they ought to be considering a land trust and an LLC in combination, just as you mentioned, with the LLC being the beneficiary.
Yes, absolutely. And let's talk a little bit about the why, because I think that's important. Many attorneys or counsel or even a CPA would say, hey, let's set up an LLC for each and every one of your rental properties, which absolutely is a great way to do it, right? But then if you think about your estate or your property, you get 10, 15 properties, you don't want to have to deal with 10, 15 different bank accounts, EIN. Speaking of the LLC renewals each and every year, what you can strategically do is start to use these land trusts, and it's a big cost savings for clients. Instead of having to pay hundreds of dollars of renewing each and every one of these LLCs each and every year, the beautiful thing I love about the land trust is you have 0 annual fees to maintain a land trust. There's not annual reports you have to file. You can literally put that property into the trust, and it can sit in there and reside there for the next 20 years. And you have the peace of mind to know that you're saving tons of money each and every year because you're not renewing all these different LLCs.
So certainly a cost-benefit analysis, where that's really important. How much is it going to cost me over time to place properties in either LLCs or into trusts, and the simplification of the process by using a trust, absolutely really, really important. So what if I came to you, Dan, and I've got a piece of property, and right now it's in my own name, but I'm thinking of putting it into a trust. What would that process look like?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is call our advisement team. Our advisement team can walk through the ins and outs of your personal estate plan, because there's no two estates that are the same, right? And there's no two properties that are the same. So we always want to make sure that wherever that property is located, that it's the right instrument to do. So I always recommend call our advisement team. We can coach you through the specifics about your estate. But it's really simple. When we go through that process, if we identify that it's the right setup for you, we set up the trust. We can do what's called a quit claim deed and transfer the title of the property into the trust. And you can duplicate that process as needed with your estate. But I always recommend make sure you're talking to an expert. And our team, we have a great team that can help support on that.
Really, really important point, because the laws that govern these land trusts vary from state to state. And some states are, better than others for a variety of different purposes. And so talking to somebody who's in the know, really, really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? Something else that anybody ought to consider when they're looking at a land trust?
I think just land trusts are phenomenal. And I just look at, there's famous individuals that many of the viewers might know. Walt Disney, he's famous for land trusts. When he went in and bought up all that land in Disney World, he bought it for pennies on the dollar because he went in anonymously and bought all that land. And I think you can look at it today, and I'm sure much of that land is still held in land trusts. So You look at the way these have been used in the past and the way that they're used presently, I think it's a phenomenal tool. And using it along with an LLC, I don't think there's a better way to set it up.
Yeah, great information. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you joining us today on the program. And thank you for joining us again, listening to this information about land trusts. If you'd like to learn more about land trusts and find out if a land trust is right for you and your real estate, contact us here at Inc. Authority. Give us a call, talk to one of our business advisors here. We'll be happy to dig into it more with you. Now would be a good time to hit the like button. We appreciate you joining us, and also make sure that you subscribe with the notification bell on so that you don't miss any future content. That's it for today's show. We look forward to seeing you again next week with more content. Until then, be safe, be smart, and make good decisions, and we'll see you again.